song of the day coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It's Wednesday. You know what that means? It is Wanderlust Wednesday here in the Rock Cave, and that's where we play music you've maybe never heard before, a band you never heard before, a deep cut from a band you know, or something you haven't heard in a really long time. You get the drift. We've done tons of Wanderlust Wednesdays. We've thrown a lot of stuff at you, and I'm pretty proud of it. I think you guys get exposed to stuff that maybe you never heard before. It's not always a hit. Sometimes it's a miss, but a lot of times it's something really cool. So for those of you who haven't been watching since day one, we are in season 6, which will be wrapping up in early April. But this all started in 2020 during the pandemic, and those episodes, 365 episodes in 365 days, which I'm proud of, by the way. Those are rough around the edges. I don't know if the lighting here was an issue, and it was the pandemic, and I wasn't comfortable in front of a camera. There's a lot about that season that's a little cringy for me to watch, but I wouldn't be here today without that. So I do go back and look at that season 1, and I say, I'm going to revisit this. We're going to brighten it up a little bit. We're going to add some music and graphics, and we're going to give it what do you say? It's like just the top-notch treatment, the Criterion collection, if you will. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the band Noughts and Crosses. Noughts and Crosses formed late 1980s out of Maine and then Boston, formed by Carol Noonan, singer, Alan Williams, keyboard and vocals, and Rick Harris, guitar and vocals. They all attended the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston at one time or another, and they were just doing their thing like a lot of other bands do. They're like a folky rock pop band, mostly kind of folkish for the time, and they would just play a small venue. They were just not on venue. They would just play like for their family and friends. I mean, they were playing wherever they could play. Harmonies, guitar, vocals, catchy songs, and they were doing their thing slowly, coming along, and then finally a new radio station out of Boston, WBOS, gets a hold of one of their songs, plays it, and that's when things start picking up steam. Instead of playing in front of, maybe a few dozen or maybe 100 or 200 people, they're suddenly playing in front of a couple thousand people in Copley Square. So they're still self-promoting, self-producing, and self-distributing their CDs, putting them in the local record stores, and they're selling them on their own. And that's where I came in. My mother and her husband, they introduced me. They were living in Warwick, Rhode Island, and they got a hold of their CDs. And they said, Mark, you got to hear this. We shared a lot of love for the same music. They love Talking Heads, and we go back and forth about music a lot. And they turned me on to this, and I would have never heard it otherwise. And I just thought, wow, this is really great. And so I've been a fan ever since of these records. And they could get them because they were local. But again, they self-promoted their stuff. They put out 2 CDs on their own. They sold 20,000 copies, very respectful amount considering what they were doing. And there was a little bit of a bidding war. Suddenly, they're on WBOS. Critics are loving the music. They're saying they're going to be bigger. Someone's got to sign them. I think they're going to be international. And Island Records signed them. They're thinking they're going to make it big. And then it's just that story that you hear so often. The label, I don't know what happened. Maybe the people they were working with changed, or maybe the label had changed, or whatever. Maybe they didn't know what to do with a folky pop rock band. But for like a year, and then they got dropped. No record, no nothing. They go to try to put themselves back together and put something out, but they couldn't do it. So they played their last show in May of 1994. Singer Carol Noonan has a website. That's where I got the most of my information from. This is a band that you can't find a ton of information on out there. But she has very well written up the story of them and what her experience with them was like. So that's where I got all that from. They, again, put out those records, and then later, 5 years later, they put out a compilation. There Was a Time, which kind of took all the best songs from both those records and then added a few to that. And she says about that time in her life when she was singing, she said, back when I could sing like Grace Slick, wear short dresses, and wear biker boots. And we would close the encores with White Room from Cream and Gimme Shelter from the Stones. And that's, she said there was no other feeling like being able to sing like that and play in front of people and do that. And boy, She says she just looks back at that time, and she would still get emails years and years later from fans saying how much they love their music and that kind of thing. And she put out a lot of solo records, was still doing her thing singing. She's got a lot of stuff out there. Big contributor to NPR. They love her music. She's done some essays for them. And her and her husband opened up a music hall called Stone Mountain Art Center, tiny little place right in the White Mountains in Maine, right in their backyard of their house, Brownfield, Maine. And they've had people play there, like the Indigo Girls, Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, Richie Havens. It's pretty cool. Sounds like that she's managed to just live her music life to the best of her ability and has really gotten a lot out of that. So what are the songs? Here we are, people. You got to pop these on. It's hard to get their music. You can get it on Apple Music. You can hear a lot of these songs, so you should be able to do that. Apparitions, Waiting for You, The Train Song, Curve of the Earth, Coming Up for Air, Moment of Mercy. These are all songs you should check out. We're going to post a bunch of them on there. And then you get to the two songs you must play. Again, these two albums, they came out, Adore, Creatures of Habit. Those are your songs right there. Adore, so good. And again, this is like music you got to play with stereo. Turn it up. You need some bass. You need to listen to it a few times. In your car, on your stereo. If you play it on your phone or your laptop, it's not quite the same. But Adore and then Creatures of Habit, my all-time favorite from them. Just rip through this song. It just gives me chills every time I hear it. It's so good. The drums, the vocals, the guitar. And I'm saying to myself, every time I hear this, maybe it was just that it was too soon. I don't know. But you think about Indigo Girls, Melissa Etheridge, and then soon Lilith Fair and Tracy Chapman and the Cranberries, and you're like, was this just too soon? Just early 90s? Was it like 5 years too early? And they must have been saying that about that music themselves. Like, how is it, this is what's popular now? Singer-songwriters, we've been doing this. I don't know, in my mind I feel like that's what they must be feeling. But these are some great songs out there. And if you haven't heard of them, you're playing them today. And if you have, I want to hear below. If you're from that area, or you remember ever hearing them, write it in the comments. But I'm super excited to re-present to you Knots and Crosses today, because I want you to listen to it and give it a chance and tell me what you think. That's your assignment. Whatever you're doing today, I hope it involves music. And as usual, catch you on the flip side.